Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead on Porch Time today. I'm not sitting in my swing today because, believe it or not, the sun is shining extremely bright and there's just shadows being casted over there, and the sun is right in my eyes this morning, so I'm not able to sit there and do it, so I had to move over to the old rocking chair and talk about Porch Time today. Actually, you can probably tell a little bit in the background that we got a breeze blowing. The leaves on the plants here is blowing. But done been up this morning. We've done got the English pea bed ready. We've got a video coming out on that. We haven't planted them, but we've got the bed. We got the rows fertilized with rabbit manure, and we've got our fencing started up in it for our English peas. So in the next week we'll probably be planting our English peas. We're trying to get a jump on that, and we're getting a video together to show y'all how we plant our English peas. But it's kind of an introductory a little bit into Porch Time today. It's not going to be basically about gardening, but I want to continue on homesteading, and specifically the homestead itself. And today I'd like to talk about the home on the homestead. I'd like to talk about some areas where I didn't do so well at, and if I had to make changes, this is what I would do. And if I was a beginning homesteader, these are some things that I would take into consideration. Now, as most of y'all know, most of you've seen our home in pictures or live streams or whatever. You've seen some of the video of the inside of our home. I built an extremely large house. For what I would call a large house for me. It's 2,300 square feet, and that's a pretty good size house for me. I originally had planned to build a lot smaller house, but ended up, it's one of those phases in life and construction I was going through. I was building $1 million homes, and you just get caught up in this phase in life, and that's what I did. I got caught up in building big, fine homes, and I myself at that time wanted a big, nice home, because all I could see was just, I wasn't looking at practicality, I wasn't looking at old age, I wasn't looking at a lot of things. At that time, the lady I was married to before she passed away, Debbie, wanted a Country Victorian home. And that's what I built here. It has some Arcadian style to it, but it's basically a Country Victorian. And rather than put it on a slab, I cut a hillside out and built it up off the ground. The front of it's about 2 feet off the ground, the back of it's about 5 feet off the ground, a little over 5 feet off the ground. But there's a big deck in the back, and it's like 5 foot off the ground. And if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have just brought the dirt in or either cut one of my hillsides down on my property here and leveled all this off and put the house level on the ground, rather than build it up on blocks 2 feet up off the ground. Because now that I'm older, going up and down steps is starting to become an issue. We have a ramp over here on one side of our house where we use it now. It's a 16-foot ramp going in and up out of the house. We're going from, raising up from zero level with the ground up 2 feet high. It makes it a lot easier on us getting things in and out of the house, because we have to have a dolly or something to bring things in and out of the house. It's just not practical when you got steps when you get older. So that's one of the things that I would change if I had to change it all over and do it. Another thing is, I probably would not have went with as large of a home, because actually I have so many rooms in the house now that we don't even use anymore. At that particular time, I ran a pretty good sized construction business, and I actually have an office in my home. And the office now, even though it's a octagon shaped office, which it's kind of funny because a lot of times we use it we call it the Oval Office, because it looks like the office in the White House, and it's kind of humorous to see the octagon shaped windows and all in it when I'm sitting behind the desk. But it's now when we have guests come to stay with us, we just put a bed in the floor in the office, and we let the kids or whatever sleep there in the office. And we also have an extra bedroom on the house that we don't even use anymore, so guests can stay in that bedroom when they come. have an extra bathroom, all this stuff on, the house basically is divided into two separate sections. You could live on one end or you could live on the other end, and then all the functioning parts in the middle. The living room's extremely large with very high ceilings in it. It's got a large foyer in the house. These are things that if I had to redo it all over again, I probably would make some changes, because as y'all seen in some of my other videos or seen in my live chats, we are not able to heat this house very efficiently. We have to close off a big portion of this house to be able to be comfortable when it's like here this couple of weeks ago. It was down in the teens, and wind chill factors was way down. The house being up off the ground, even though I have it closed in around the bottom now, when it's up off the ground like that, the wind blowing hard, the floor gets extremely cold. And it's so hard, the high ceilings, because some of my rooms, like my bedroom has an octagon shaped ceiling, tray ceiling in it that's octagon shaped. My dining room has a stepped up octagon shaped ceiling up in it. It really is too much to try to heat. The extreme high ceilings in the dining room, extreme high ceilings in the living rooms and foyers and stuff like this make it very hard to heat. Now, it's not so hard if you're going to run a central heating and central air unit. It's not hard to heat and cool it. It's just that the bill is so expensive having to run a 4-ton unit to be able to heat and cool a house this size. With the wood heater that we have, it's a small wood heater. It's just a cast iron one. It's all we could afford at the time when Wanda and I purchased it, where our thinking was that this would be sufficient to heat what we needed to heat, but now we see that that's not working, and we're going to have to upgrade, because it doesn't have the burn time in it's about 1 hour to hour and a half is the burn time on a load of wood in it, and that's just not very efficient for us, because at night when it's really cold I have to stay up most of the night and keep a fire going. I just kind of get the opportunity to doze off every so often. So, as a beginning homesteader, if you're looking at, or not necessarily a beginning homesteader, if you're just looking at building you a new facility to live in, a new home, some things you want to take into consideration. This house is extremely cut up. Now, it has, I don't even remember how many, I think it's got like 9 hips on it and 5 or 6 valleys and all that kind of stuff. That's just not very practical. And I would, if I had it to do all over again, I probably would just build a longer, straighter house, and I would put the fireplace or the wood heater on one end of it, so that when I turned the blower on, it would blow the air straight down through the house, so I could heat all the house efficiently, like our house is here now. We're going to have to get a wood heater that has at least an 8 to a 14-hour burn time on a load of wood, and it's going to have a blower system on it, so that we can try to move some of that air away from that heater, in order to be able to heat parts of this house. And to be honest with you, there really is no way to heat everything that is out in the bedrooms and all that stuff. It's just not possible because of the way the house is designed. It's a poor design for wood heat. But nevertheless, it is my home now, and I have to do whatever I have to do. So I've got to get a more efficient wood heater so that Wanda and I don't have to spend as much time loading it up with wood, and it burns longer on the amount of wood that we have. Because as we get older, we're not able to get out and cut wood like we used to. We have to we have to have somebody come in and actually take the trees for us now and cut them down. Now, I can split them with a log splitter. If I had a log splitter, then I could split them. Right now we're borrowing an electric one that it's not very powerful and it doesn't work very fast or efficient, but when you don't have one and somebody's let you borrow one, then it's the best you can do. Then you do what you have to do. And that's one of the things about being on a homestead. You have to learn to adapt to your situations. So think about, when you're building a house, think about the design of that house. Not necessarily, don't do what I did. Don't think about it when you're younger. Look at it from when you're of an older age, and how economical is this going to be for you to heat and cool? How economical is it going to be for you to have wood If the power goes out, ice storm, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever happens and the power goes out, and it happens to be extremely cold or something, how am I going to heat this thing? Everybody's talking about pellet stoves. Well, unless you have a solar system as a backup system to run that auger on that pellet stove is really not, or a generator, it's not very efficient for you, so you got to think about those things. And people are talking about tiny houses. I can't see how that could be an efficient thing to do on a homestead. I've looked at that thing from every angle that I can look at it from. Everybody's talking about 400 to 600 square feet. I'm telling you, from my perspective, there's no way in a house that size you're going to be able to raise kids, can vegetables, have any kind of storage whatsoever to store food enough to last for any length of time. Because the house that I live in here now is 2,300 square feet. But I'm thinking about being just practical here, people. Is it easier to heat it? Yeah, it's going to be easier to heat it. Is it easier to cool it? Yeah, it's going to be easier to cool it. That's not my quirk with it. Is it going to be easier to clean? Because I'm telling you, the biggest issue I'm seeing with tiny houses is the simple fact that most people they don't want to spend their time inside, they want to spend their time outside. Well, let me tell you, a house on a homestead is nothing more than a tool. You got to get out of your mind that it's this elegant, fancy place that you have to keep up to par. Because if crap hits the fan, who cares? You don't want to destroy your house on the inside, but you see my home is a very nice built, fine home. And in my dining room is a very elite dining room. But I put tarps on the floor in that dining room, and we put Irish potatoes with dirt all over them, and sweet potatoes, and all kinds of tomatoes and vegetables is piled all over my floors. Everywhere in that dining room. We pour peanuts out on the floor, leave stuff in there to cure all the time. We've got drying seeds all in there all the time. This house is a tool, y'all. Now, I don't abuse it, but in order for me to be efficient on a homestead, if I didn't have that big dining room and I lived in a tiny house, where am I going to put that stuff in a tiny house to be able to let it dry or cure? Now, the only other option would be to have an outside facility to do that. But with the weather that's so hot and so humid here where we live at in South Mississippi, if you put something outside to let it dry, it's not going to dry because it stays too humid all the time. Now, if I was up north, that may be possible because of drier humidity up there. But I'm just speaking from a southern standpoint. It's not going to function here because it's just too humid. It's one of those things that you got to think about. Can I raise my family efficiently in a tiny house? Can I store my food efficiently in a tiny house? If you get in a little tiny house, I'm going to tell you, my kitchen is 12 by 18, 12 by 20. My kitchen's 12 by 20, and it's too small. It gets so cotton picking hot in that kitchen in the summertime when you're trying to can, that even with the windows open and the air conditioner running or whatever, it just gets overwhelming. Now that's a 12 by 20. And you're heating that thing up that much in the summertime. That's why a lot of times things that will hold, and we can get them in a freezer or in the cellar, and we can do our canning in the wintertime so that we can utilize that heat. That's what we do. Now, if that was a tiny house, most tiny houses ain't much bigger than that. They'd run you out of there if you was trying to can in there. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not downing tiny houses. If you want to live and do the prepper thing, and you got an outside facility to store your food or an underground facility, and you just want to live in something tiny, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm speaking for me personally. You're not going to put me in one of them things unless I just absolutely have to be in one of them, because I don't see from my standpoint where I live at that they're practical. It's now, would I mind living in something 900 to 1,000 square feet? I don't have a problem with that, because I could see where that would work if it had a wraparound porch around it. somewhere that I could get out. I could put stuff under a porch and keep it a little bit drier, where I maybe could screen part of it in, and put ceiling fans on it, to be moving some air around so that stuff might dry efficiently. That I might could see. But when you start talking about living in something 400 to 600 square feet, I don't see it on a homestead, especially with kids. Now, 2 elderly people, you might be able to do it, and you might be able to do it very efficiently. But that's one of my things that I want to, I've told you about the house on the homestead. The home is probably one of the largest investments you'll make on a homestead, other than maybe a tractor or a barn. And if wherever you're going to put the most money at on the homestead, and where you're going to have to lay down and sleep at night, because let me tell you something, homesteading is not easy work. It's extremely hard work. As I've told y'all a lot of my other porch times, we get up at 5:30 in the morning, and there's many times, unless we have company or someone staying with us, we'll be out in the field by 6 o'clock, 6:30, depending on what time of the year it is, and we just bust our tail all day long, because when you don't have an outside job, that's what it takes to live on a homestead. And if you're going to be doing that hard of a work, you want to make sure you've got somewhere that when you go to lay down to rest, that you can actually rest, and you're not bothered by someone who's going to be up. If you're in a tiny house, say 400 to 600 square feet, and it's 14 feet wide and it's X number of feet long, or 16 feet wide and X number of feet long, and you're trying to do YouTube or something like that, trying to put these videos out there, and you're trying to edit, and there's somebody else trying to sleep, and you got kids in the house with you in that small space, whoever it is trying to sleep, they're not going to have much rest. And I hope y'all can hear me all right, because the way this wind is blowing, and you see the leaves all falling in the background here behind me. The wind's just kicking up a pretty good bit here, but it's all about your rest. You've got to make sure that where you have to lay down in a house that you can shut it off. It can be a silent space. It can be a space that has no TV or no distractions in it whatsoever, so that you can get a good night's rest, because homesteading is very difficult, and it's extremely hard, labor intensive work. Now, when you're younger, you seem to be able to sleep a lot more efficiently than you do when you get older. The older you get, the less sleep you actually get, because it's a lot harder to go to sleep unless you take something to make you go to sleep. And of course, Wanda and I, we don't believe in doing that. We don't believe in taking medications that make us go to sleep. We believe in having our home quiet enough and comfortable enough and peaceful enough that we can actually lay down and go to sleep without any type of medication making us do that. We feel like that's the way God intended for it to be. But thinking about a home on a homestead, that's where your greatest investment's going to be, other than maybe your land, a tractor, or a barn. Don't sink all your money into a house, because I'm going to tell you, in order to be an efficient homesteader and try to survive off of your land, I hate right now that I shrunk mine down to 10 acres, because the more land you have, I'm not saying you have to do anything with all that land. It's just the simple fact that if you have it, there's resources on it. You can have trees on it for firewood. You can have wildlife come into it to take for food. You can have wild herbs growing in the woods, blackberries, blueberries, wild huckleberries, all this kind of stuff growing in the woods. There's just edibles in the woods. The more land you can possess as a homesteader, the greater your ability to survive will be should a life-changing event take place. And lots of people say, oh, I only want 1 acre, I only want 2 acres. My friend, if I had to do all over again, I would have never gotten rid of all the land that I sold, because I sold a lot of land. And now I'm down to 10 acres, and I really regret that. Because now we have some deer come in on our land. We have squirrels and stuff like that on the property, but now that I've shrunk it down to 10 acres and we've got more neighbors around us, there's not near as much wildlife as there used to be. So if there was a life-changing event take place in my neighborhood here, everybody's going to have the same thing on their mind. They're going to be trying to look for food to eat, and what few animals there is left coming in around me here would be taken out real quickly. And then there would be no extra wildlife for anybody to eat, because, you know, where if I had more land around me, then I would have more of an ability to have wildlife to sustain me. So think about that if you're redoing your homestead or going to another homestead, or if you're a beginning homesteader. Think about building smaller, maybe say 1,000, 1,200 square feet. Straight house, nothing fancy, very economical to heat and cool, on a slab, on the ground if at all possible. Easy, no steps to climb up and down, so you can get in and out of it easily at ground level. So when you're older, keep the house handicap accessible. Make sure you put 3-foot doors in the house everywhere, so that if you're ever in a wheelchair, like I've been in a wheelchair 2 times in my life, it makes it a lot easier to get around in a house if you've got the wider doors, because you never know when anything's going to happen in your life or your spouse's life or a child's life where you're going to have handicap accessible stuff. So make sure you consider that in a home. Keep the house small. Keep the amount that you pay for it low. If you're going to be investing money, invest it into land, because you cannot go wrong by buying land. And make sure you've got as much land as you can financially afford. You don't have to do anything with it, just as long as you have it. Because there's, like I said, there's resources there. There's wildlife there. You know, if you can have water on it, whatever. Those are things that make a homestead more sustainable. I was talking a little bit about homesteading and homes, and about some of the things that you might want to consider whenever you buy a home, or if you're going to build a home, or if you're looking at purchasing lands. You know, these are some of the things. You know, try to, if, you know, you want it all possible, you want to try to purchase some land that's got water on it, or is as level as possible. Don't make the mistakes I made and buy something that's extremely hilly, because it's not very feasible when you get old. You can't get up and down these hills very easy. So I'm gonna stop there on Porch Time today. Tell y'all thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed Porch Time today, and we will see y'all next Tuesday on Porch Time. Thank you from Deep South Homestead.